Today we are going to learn what's called combining like terms. What do we mean by like terms? Oops, not combing like terms, combining. So let's say that we are adding some fruits together. Okay, so at a fruit store, let's say in our first basket, we have 5 apples. 5 apples in our first basket. In our second basket, we have 3 grapes. In our third basket, we have 4 melons. In our fourth basket, we have 5 grapes. In our sixth basket, we have 10 apples. And in our sixth basket, we have 2 melons. Okay, and let's say we want to add up all of these fruits together. Let's add all these fruits together. Or let's say that a customer wants to know how many fruits do you have in your store. This is your store. Your fruit store. Now, the obvious way of adding all these up would be to add all the numbers together, right? But once you start doing that, you get into really confusing areas. So for example, can you really add 5 apples and 3 grapes together? Well, if you add the numbers, you're going to get 8, but what's the unit going to be? Is that going to be 8 apples? Is that going to be 8 grapes? The unit becomes a bit weird. And the same thing here, when you add 3 and 4, you get the number 7, but is it going to be 7 grapes? Is it going to be 7 melons? Is it going to be 7 grape/melons? You could say grape/melon, but then we lose some information because we don't know how many of these fruits in here are grapes and how many of those are melons, right? So the best way to count these would add the same kinds with each other. Add just the same kinds with each other. So just add the apples with the apples, the grapes with the grapes, and the melons with the melons. Okay, so let's add the apples together, this and that. Okay, so if we add the apples together, we're going to get 15 apples. And then let's add the grapes together. We have 3 grapes here, 5 grapes here, so a total of 8 grapes. 8 grapes. And then let's add the melons together. We have 4 melons here and 2 melons there, so we're going to get 6 melons. And this is in fact the best way we can count these fruits, because now we know how many of each fruit we have. We didn't really lose any information, but we found the total for each fruit. Right? We have 15 apples, we have 8 grapes, and we have 6 melons. And this is what we mean when we say combining like terms. In algebra, we can't really combine or add different terms the same way that we can't really add apples and grapes. Right? We can't add apples and grapes together. And the same thing is true in algebra. So for example, if we have 5x plus 4 plus let me use a different number, 6x minus 2, something like this in algebra, I can't really add the 5x with the 4. Right? Because this will be kind of like trying to add apples and grapes together. So instead of adding 5x and 4, we can add the 5x with the 6x, and we can add the 4, or in this case, subtract the 4 and the 2. Okay, now we can do this because the 5x and the 6x are the same kind. They're like terms. And how do we know that they're like terms? It's because they have the same letters. Okay, when they have the same letter, it means that we can add them together. So having the same letter is kind of like having the same, or talking about the same fruit here. Okay, so you can think of these fruits as kind of like letters. So we can add the 5 apples and the 10 apples together because they're both apples. We're going to end up with 15 apples. In the same way, we can add the 5x and the 6x together. Now, what would 5x plus 6x equal? Well, if we have 5x's here and 6x's here, then if we add them together, we're going to have a total of 11x's. And again, this is the same thing we did when we added apples. We had 5 apples here, we had 10 apples here, so altogether we ended up with 15 apples. Okay, so we have 11x's, and how many numbers do we have? We have 4 here and minus 2 here. So 4 minus 2 is going to be 2. Okay, so if we combine the like terms in this long equation, it becomes this equation here. Okay, and again, this is kind of like arranging a long list of numbers that we had up here into the sum of all the different fruits we have at our store. Okay, so this is what we mean by combining like terms. We can only combine, you can combine numbers together. So by numbers, I mean numbers that have no letters. So like 4 and minus 2 we had here. Or you can combine like terms, which means they have the same letters. You can combine the same letters. And you can think of having the same letters as equivalent to being the same kind or being the same fruit. Right? So we can add apples with apples, we can add grapes with grapes, we can add melons with melons. Okay, let's try another example. All right, let's say we have 5x plus 5y minus 2x plus 7z minus 3y plus z. Okay, so right away you see that we have a lot of different letters here. We have the x's, we have another x here, we have y here and here, and we have z's here and here. And you can think of having different letters as being different fruits, as we saw in the fruit store before. So just like we couldn't really add apples and grapes together, we can't add different letters together. So we have to find the letters that are the same so that we can add them together. So which term here has the same letter as 5x? And we've already underline them with the same letter. Okay, so the 5x and the minus 2x has the same letter, so we can combine those two. And again, 5x minus 2x, if we subtract 2 x's from 5 x's, that's going to be 3 x's. Okay, and how about the y's. So we have 5y's here, and then minus 3y. 5y here minus 3y. So 5y's minus 3y's is going to be 2y's. Okay, and lastly, we have 7 z's here and a z here. So if we have 7 z's and then we add a z there, then we're going to get 8 z's. Okay, so if we combine all the like terms together, we're going to end up with this equation down here. Okay, so this is what we mean by combining like terms.